Hey everybody, Joe here with 360 Comics. Today I'm going to be giving you a list of 10 Marvel books that I'm currently speculating on right now in September of 2021. Make sure you don't miss out on our 600 subscriber giveaway right here on YouTube, where you can win this copy of The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, Number 1, the first cameo appearance of Cindy Moon, aka Silk. All you've got to do is subscribe to this YouTube channel, like and comment on our videos, and for each video you like and comment on, you get an entry, meaning you can watch all of our videos and maximize your chance of winning. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram so you can take part in our 4,000 follower giveaway that we'll be announcing in the next few days. Before we hop into our list for today, I just want to remind you guys, as always, nothing that I'm saying today is financial advice by any means, and speculating can be extremely risky. No profit is ever guaranteed, and there is a possibility of a loss of value as well. Kicking off our Marvel spec book list, we've got Marvel Spotlight number 4 featuring Werewolf by Night, and this is kind of a double key issue. This is the third appearance of Werewolf by Night. Some people like picking up those second, third, even fourth and fifth appearances of certain characters, especially if their first appearance becomes astronomically expensive. But even more so than that appearance, this book is a key issue due to it being the first appearance of the Darkhold. If you guys saw WandaVision, at the very end of the last episode, we see Wanda hovering over this, evil-looking book. The pages are flipping, and she's doing some kind of incantation. And that is the Darkhold, that book. And I think that Marvel and the MCU are kind of moving in that direction with Wanda, giving her an evil streak. I don't know if we'll ever see her, team up against the X-Men with Magneto, but they seem to be going in a darker direction with her. I think that the book is probably going to be a bigger player in Multiverse of Madness, which Wanda is confirmed to be in. And, I'd like to see that side of Scarlet Witch. I'd like to see her become, even more powerful and using this dark magic and stuff like that. And it's also really nice that it opens up a little bit of the world of Marvel monsters, such as Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing, and those characters could then be more easily integrated into the MCU. So I'm hoping we see more of the Darkhold. I'm hoping we hear the name. I'm hoping they call it by name, and maybe it'll bring some Marvel monsters into the universe. Up next, we got Age of Ultron 10, and this book is the first Marvel appearance of Angela. Her first appearance is in Spawn number 9, but this is the first time she's in a Marvel book, and this book can really be picked up sometimes for $5 to $10 still at comic stores. If you've watched some of my dollar bin videos recently, I think I found 3 or 4, I forget how many, of this book in dollar bins still. But I think it's a great book to spec on, and the reason that I picked this over Spawn 9 is strictly due to the supply of both of those books. I looked up the CGC census, and as far as Spawn 9 goes, there are almost 2,000 copies of that book in a 9.8 blue label, where there are less than 60 copies of this book in a 9.8 blue label. One thing about those census numbers to keep in mind is that there's been some buzz about this book over the last year, and there may be a ton of copies at CGC right now waiting to get graded or waiting to be sent back. So, as time goes on, we could see that census number climb quite rapidly. I just don't know, and I think we're just going to have to wait at least a couple months, if not a year or so, to really see how many are on the census. The buzz I mentioned around this book has to do with the fact that Angela is Thor's half-sister, and it seems like Chris Hemsworth and Thor are kind of ready to make their exit from the MCU. We've got Thor Love and Thunder coming out next year, and will that be his last appearance? I don't know. But someone is going to have to eventually take over the throne of Asgard, and Angela is a great character to do so. For all those reasons, if I can find this book for $5 or less in good shape, I'm going to still be picking it up. Children in the 90s like myself rejoiced when we saw Spider-Man 2099 in that end credit scene of Into the Spider-Verse. This book right here, Spider-Man 2099 #1, is his first full appearance. He does have a preview in The Amazing Spider-Man number 365, and that book does hold a little bit more value than this one, but I actually like this one better because to me, a preview is not a first appearance. The character is not appearing in story, is not appearing, even in cameo in the story. So, previews are cool, don't get me wrong, and I do collect them, but I like this book as Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara's first full appearance. The real question is, when are we going to see this character again? Is he going to be a main part of Into the Spider-Verse 2, or was that cameo appearance at the end of the first movie just kind of a cute little nod to a really cool character from the 90s? We don't really know. We'll have to wait and find out. Same thing with Spider-Man No Way Home. Obviously, there's some kind of multiverse thing going on, and this character could appear, but I really would not count on that. But going forward, this character could show up somewhere in the MCU, especially with all the, multiverse time travel stuff going on right now. He's a cool character. He looks awesome, and he's got a lot of nostalgia factors. So, keep on the lookout. I've got a bunch of copies of this book, but this is my only one that is a newsstand edition. These were a lot more rare in the 90s, and they do hold higher value, especially if they're in a higher grade. I said this in my last video, I've been picking up a lot of Namor stuff recently, the Submariner, and that's because he is inevitably coming to the MCU. I don't think there's anyone out there that's really denying that the first mutant of Marvel, dating back all the way to the Golden Age, is eventually going to show up somewhere in a movie or a show or whatnot. It's going to happen. Whether it happens in 2022 or 2023 or 2027, we don't know. But he's coming at some point. Now, like I said, I've been picking up a lot of different Namor keys recently, but specifically ones that link him to other characters that also could show up in the MCU. So this one, we've got Thing on the front from the Fantastic Four, and this is a classic John Buscema cover. It's really hard to get in high grade due to that black background going on. Every single tick and color break shows up really easily. But I found low-grade copies recently for $8, $10, and $15, which is a great price on this book. And, I see them going on eBay for, under $20, and I think it's worth picking this up. It's a great battle between these two characters, a classic cover, and, characters that have not made their way to the MCU yet that will 100% be here sometime soon. Next, we got a Spidey first appearance. This is the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, number 4, the first full appearance of Silk. Now, you guys saw in the beginning of this video, my giveaway book for right now for my YouTube giveaway is the first cameo appearance of Cindy Moon, aka Silk. This is her first full appearance as the character, and I think she is an underrated character. I think she's just as good, if not better, than Spider-Gwen. Now, Spider-Gwen's first appearance has a lot less copies out there in a 9.8. There's about 2,000 or so in a 9.8, whereas this book, there's about 4,000. So that is one reason that I'm kind of not super big on this spec, but I still think that, given the supply being so large, I do think that the demand will eventually pick up for this character. You can get a 9.8 for like $350 to $400 right now. I don't ever think, I shouldn't say ever, but I don't think in the near future this book will ever be like $1,200, $1,500 or anything like that, but I think it could get closer to that $1,000 mark, given that if you ask random Marvel fans, and I'm talking like the more casual Marvel fans that more just watch the MCU stuff and haven't really read the comics, if you show them Spider-Gwen, a bunch of them are going to recognize that character, whereas Silk, not nearly as many will. Not that I ever think that she will be as popular as Spider-Gwen, but I think that her popularity could rise a lot, especially given that, she is a great character and can end up in a lot of different things, some crossovers, different teams, maybe. So we'll see what happens going forward. Like I said, there is a large supply, but demand is pretty low on this character. For the same reason I was concerned about the last book, I feel great about this book. We've got The Amazing Spider-Man 238, the first appearance of Hobgoblin, one of my favorite characters of all time, one of my favorite covers of all time, and this is a key issue to look out for based upon how many are on the census. Now, compared this to the first appearance of Venom, which is Amazing Spider-Man 300. Both came out in the 80s. Both are popular characters. Now, Venom is a more popular character. I know that. But 9.8s of this book are about half as much as 9.8s of the first appearance of Venom. And not only that, but there are less than half of the amount on the census of 9.8 blue labels for this book as compared to the first appearance of Venom. Now, Venom's value shot up a ton when the movie came out, even though the critical reception was not that great. I personally liked the movie, but a lot of people did not, for very valid reasons. And I think that if this character makes it to the big screen, it could really shoot this up at least near, if not to, Venom value. Now, there is a little speculation as far as the MCU goes that the character of Ned Leeds might take on the role of Hobgoblin at some point. In the comics, Ned Leeds was brainwashed and forced to be the Hobgoblin by the actual Hobgoblin, and I think people are kind of playing into that, going along with the fact that the actor that plays Ned Leeds in the MCU lost a lot of weight recently, maybe getting ready to play a more athletically challenging role, such as the Hobgoblin. Personally, I don't think we're going to see that, but I do eventually think that this character will be used for something. Lots of 90s nostalgia for those who watched the Amazing Spider-Man television show. Hobgoblin was voiced by the great Mark Hamill. So I can't imagine them just, passing by this character when they're going through Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery. Moving on to some X-Men spec here for our last 4 books, as we wait for their inevitable entry to the MCU. I've got Uncanny XMen number 282. This is the first cover appearance and first cameo appearance of Bishop. Bishop being a fan favorite of the 90s, a really cool character they can do a lot of things with, is involved with time travel, which kind of seems like what the MCU is going for right now, and just honestly a very affordable key issue to pick up. I was picking these up for years for $10, $12. They've seemed to be going up a little bit more now. I'm seeing them in the low 20s, still very affordable. I've got this newsstand 9.4. I have a standard edition 9.6, and I've got a couple copies that I think will achieve the 9.8 that I need to send to CGC eventually. At one point, this was the comic that I had the most copies of. I think 20 to 25 or so that I have right now. I have more of other books at this point, but this is definitely one that I've always looked out for because I think there's a lot of potential for growth, even for a book from the 90s. Going hand in hand with that last book, we've got the Uncanny X-Men number 244, the first appearance of Jubilee. She was such a main player in that X-Men animated series, and I think they're going to definitely take from that when they introduce the X-Men to the MCU due to the nostalgia factor. A lot of people that grew up watching that show are in their early 40s, 30s, late 20s at this point. And that's a lot of the people that are going to be going out to these movies and spending money on merchandise and things like that. So I think they're really going to tap into that nostalgia. And, she's a great diverse character to add. And, she's pretty flashy and has a cool costume and stuff like that. So I think that she's definitely going to be introduced and hopefully done right this time. And she'll be a part of the MCU. One of the things I really like about her as a character is, as they introduce the X-Men and Charles Xavier and the School for Gifted Youngsters, she can start off young and as a student and work her way up into the X-Men and through the ranks of the X-Men over the course of a long time. So she has a lot of longevity for the MCU. We'll see. That's just, again, my personal prediction for this character. I really like Jubilee, and I'd like to see this book go somewhere. Next up is a book that I think we're going to see pop in value sooner rather than later. This is Avengers Annual 10, the first appearance of Rogue. And I've said it a couple times on live, and I think I've posted about it once or twice, but I do think that we're going to see Rogue and Mystique probably show up in the Marvels, which is the next Captain Marvel movie. If you know Rogue's backstory, she puts Carol Danvers in a coma by using her own mutant power to steal other people's powers, which is how she gains the super strength that she has, as well as her ability to fly. That's all from Carol Danvers. So it's not guaranteed by any means, but I think that would be a really cool way to introduce this character into the MCU, because I do think they're going to introduce the mutants, the X-Men, piece by piece into the MCU over the next couple years before doing like a real X-Men movie. We probably won't see an X-Men movie until at least 2024. So bit by bit, if we get those characters, either cameoed or making an appearance in another movie, it'll be a really cool way to introduce them to the universe. Last up, we've got kind of an interesting one here because it is a Silver Age single-digit X-Men, and honestly, a book like this is very likely a good investment anyway, which is one of the reasons that I'm okay with buying multiple copies of it and speculating on it. This is the first meeting of the X-Men and the Avengers. So that's something we could probably see happening in the MCU over the next few years, which could drive the price of this book up. Compare it to a lot of the other books in the first 10 to 15 X-Men releases. This one is actually fairly affordable and probably has some room to grow, especially if we see some kind of battle between the Avengers and the X-Men like depicted on the cover of this book. This does also have a little bit of double key appeal to it as well. It is the first appearance of Lucifer, but I don't think we're going to see that character in the MCU, but you never know. That wraps up our Marvel spec list, and I would love to know in the comments below what you guys think of this list. What books do you agree with me on, and what books do you think are not good speculations? Feel free to comment below either way and give me some input. Don't forget to smack that like button on your way out and subscribe if you haven't yet. Enter our giveaway and head on over to Instagram and follow me there as well. Thank you guys so much for your support, and until next time, turn the page, wash your hands.